And there we go, everyone. We are back again for another fantastic conversation on Friday Night Counter Attack. We are rocking, we are rolling, we are ready for this new Premier League season. My beard is not looking like it normally does, but that's because you go to the third choice barber and it doesn't really help you at all. So I've had to fix it myself this week. It's not looking great, but what is looking great is the fact that we are only a few days away from the Premier League kicking off for another season. And we needed to get someone in who knows for a fact that it's going to be another Manchester City title win as well. So we are going to be talking about the winners, our predictions for top four, relegated three, the top goal scorer and top assister, the dark horse in the Premier League, and what will be the biggest shock in the Premier League as well. And what's not a shock is my co-host today, Sarah Pararia. It's great to have you back on the show as always. Been a fantastic summer working with Sporty TV across the European Championship, and it's going to be an absolutely incredible season for you working in Spain during La Liga, Kylian Mbappe time, Arda Güler time, Lamine Yamal time. It's going to be fun for you as well. How are you doing, my friend? It's great to see you.
You forgot to mention Julian Alvarez arriving to my city.
Here we go. Here we
Here
go,
we
Alvarez.
go. I've been telling everyone how selfishly I'm so excited because I can just go watch him play live, and what a player he is coming under Diego Simeone to Atleti. Oh, I think this is a great signing and I'm very excited for this. But yes, I'm so excited. La Liga starts Thursday, Prem starts Friday, City, yeah, Saturday, or actually Sunday, I think. But anyways, this weekend, we're back. We're back, everyone. It's fine. The preseason is over. All these useless games. No, like I can't tell you how happy I am. And it's so funny because I always hit this wall of fatigue halfway through the season because there's so much football. But in this present moment, I'm like, I've been, waiting. And yeah, I mean, Spain had just won the Euros. It feels like a few days ago, but it's actually been so much time in
And
international
then they won
football.
the Olympics as well, which was actually just a couple of days ago.
Listen, we got to talk about this Spanish golden era that they're in, because it's not just the men, it's the women too. And I really think it's something that's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, because I think a lot of people don't give enough attention to like the under 17s and those two championships that they won, both the men and women U17 World Cup. But yeah, like it's just not World Cup, Euro, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's incredible what this country is doing in terms of football, and it's exciting because of the amount of young players on both sides that are thriving. We know Nico Williams, we know Lamine Yamal, but when you have the under 17s winning it in Europe too, they're going to be coming up soon. So I think I came to Spain at the right time. It's a good time to be, watching and covering Spanish football.
I mean, I said on WhatsApp on our group as well, Sarah Ferraria is the biggest transfer of the season going into Madrid, and it isn't Kylian Mbappe as well. So I know you're drinking water there as well, and you nearly spat it out. But
I
yeah,
did.
it's true. It's true. It needs to be on record as well that you are probably the biggest signing in Madrid this summer as well. And Kylian Mbappe, oh, it's fine. Kylian Mbappe, it's perfectly fine. It won't really make a dent that much in Spanish football. I don't think it will just be another good signing for Real Madrid. We'll wait and see what happens with that as well. But yes, today we are talking about the Premier League. The Premier League is coming back, and it is coming back with a bang. It's coming back with a vengeance. And a lot of the teams across the Premier League are still complaining about the PSR, the financial fair play. So there are a lot of issues with that as well. The 115 charges for Manchester City there. Trial is going to happen in the early part of 2025. But all of the news regarding off the pitch, we will leave for the time being, because we are going to be focusing on what we enjoy, what we love, and what brings us energy, what's coming onto the pitch, what we're going to be expecting from the Premier League. So Sarah, you came up with this list of what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to let you go through what you really wanted to talk about. So that you've got winners, top four prediction, relegated three, top goal scorer and top assister, dark horse, and the biggest shock. So I'll let you lead a few of these as well, because I want to hear your thoughts on some of these teams that you want to talk about, some of these players that you want to talk about as well. And without further ado, everyone, make sure you comment and you share exactly what your predictions will be as well, because we're going to check them at the end of the season. And I didn't bother checking our predictions from last season because we were very, very, very wrong. Besides Manchester City title winners, we were very,
Yeah,
very,
yeah, we're
very
all
wrong.
just on the same page there.
We were just
No,
like, we'll leave it, we'll leave it, it's fine. But this one, we're going to stick to it. We're going to be better at this one as well. Let's hear
well,
it,
no,
Sarah.
the thing is with predictions is that it's such a fun podcast or show to do, or even just with your friends, everyone writes, you keep in touch what your predictions were, and then you look back and you're like, oh, we know nothing about football. Oh, brilliant. Like it's perfect. It is so funny because yeah, you might be able to
It's
pick out a
true.
winner. Like you might get a top goal scorer, but I think like the percentage of you getting all categories right is like, less than one. Like, I mean, I'm not actually sure on that math, but it's so impossible because, we're basing it off, okay, transfers, how they did last season, what preseason is looking like. But,
And we're yet to know what transfers are to be made before the first ball of the season's kicked off as
well,
well.
exactly. We have until the 31st of August. So there's still time. So, we could say Man City are winning today and tomorrow Arsenal are signing Victor Osimhen and it changes the whole game. So take it with a grain of salt, of course, but I find it so fun because we have such a different perspective. And I think if you were to even talk to us in January, if we were to do like a mid-season roundup, our answers are going to be different. That's what's so great about football. It changes constantly. It's so difficult to predict who's going to be the most consistent. And I love it. It's pure fun for me. These kind of podcasts are just pure fun because, we have a good guess and then we'll likely be wrong.
It's true. Even with the Euros predictions we had as well, none of us predicted Spain to win, and it goes to show that anything can happen in football as well. And it goes to show that with this Premier League season, is there going to be a twist in the tail? Is it going to be five in a row for Man City, Sarah? What do you think?
Well, I said this on my show at Sporty TV, and I'm going to stick with it because I think this is something I more so want, but I might be a little delusional. But I'm going Arsenal is going to win the Prem. Finally,
Okay.
Arsenal is going to win the Premier League. Listen, I know they haven't been super hot during the off season with their transfer. They obviously their biggest transfer was Calafiori. Emil Smith Rowe is out there, but there's still time. And Arsenal like to do work during the winter transfer window as well. So I'm curious to see if maybe they'll do some work then. But I think this young squad has proven under Mikel Arteta that they have learned from their mistakes and they get better and better every season. And I think City, like there's such a deep squad. Pep Guardiola, maybe the best manager of all time, but something eventually they have to stop winning, right? Like maybe this is me being delusional, but I think that maybe this will be the season where they just hit a wall. I mean, they have a lot of players to manage. They're obviously competing in all competitions. Maybe fatigue will finally hit this team. I'm not sure, but I'm going to say Arsenal, maybe because, like I said, it's something more so that I want to see happen. I want the switch up, but I think they're a team that really has proven that they're a solid side and they play really good football. And I'm here for the change up. So I'm gonna lock in Arsenal as my winners. And I know the comments are gonna be like, she's crazy. And you and your Manchester United shirt, I'm sure, have something to say about it. But I would love to see this young squad win, like Martin Odegaard captaining the team. Come on.
You know what? I'll join you. I'll be crazy as well. I'll join you with Arsenal. Like I said at the end of last season, I didn't want Manchester City to win because I am the one wearing the Manchester United shirt. So I do want to see someone other than Manchester City
Yeah.
win the Premier League. It's not nice going into Manchester and kind of hiding your badge away, or oh, you work for a Man United fan channel, and oh, you talk about Man United a lot, and oh, it's not very nice at all. But for me, yeah, I'll take an L from Arsenal fans any day of the week over Manchester City fans. But the fact that Arsenal kind of shoot themselves in the foot all the time really, really annoys me. The fact that they've persisted with players who don't really turn up for me doesn't really work well. So hopefully the sign of Calafiori is going to work well. Hopefully they do find a suitable backup for Martin Odegaard and Kai Havertz as opposed to Fabio Vieira, who's not really been great as well. And you spoke about the depth of Manchester City, and when someone like Julian Alvarez leaves Manchester City when they can afford to rest Erling Haaland from time to time, or if he is injured, Alvarez can step into place as well. That may be a factor of Manchester City don't find a great number nine to play behind Erling Haaland as well. Maybe you have to bring someone from the academy, but they did sell one of their younger players, Liam Delap, to Ipswich this season, this summer as well. So there is going to be time for Arsenal to bed in, but they have a lot more of a settled starting 11 than Manchester City do. We know that for sure. So you can kind of name the Arsenal 1 to 11 straight away all the time now. Signing David Raya on a permanent deal was a
Yeah.
great bit of business from Mikel Arteta and from Edu as well. But realistically speaking, if they get someone like Osimhen, if they do get a proper number nine in there and they do end up selling Eddie and Nketiah and they bring someone like Ivan Toney in, for example, as well before the end of the window, anything can happen. It goes to show that Arsenal are here for the long haul because if they get a striker, someone like Ollie Watkins or Tony, who you know can score 20 goals in a Premier League season and they are proven, or someone like Victor Osimhen, who is a bit of a wild card looking to leave Napoli because Antonio Conte wants to reunite with Romelu Lukaku, of course. it's going to be a fun season for Arsenal fans, whether they like it or not. They're going to be the biggest talk of the town across the Premier League as well. Even when Man United lose to Bournemouth 3-0, Arsenal fans will still be talking about Arsenal winning against some of the bigger teams as well. And I think, yeah, I'll stick with this one as well. Let's see if Arsenal can win the Premier League. It would be great to see them break the chain of the Farmers League that we have in the Premier League as well, Manchester City all the time. So yeah, let's go for Arsenal as a winner. I'll back you on this one, Sarah. But top four. This is where it gets a bit
Yeah,
tricky
this
because with
is
the
tech.
Champions League now as well, you can get up to five, like we saw last season in Serie A and the Bundesliga. Premier League never really made it because they didn't really win on that coefficiency as well. What's your initial thought so far?
Well, my initial thought is that as much as I want Aston Villa to stay in the top four, and I'm really excited to see them this season and continue, hopefully, climbing up this table, I think what's going to end up happening is they are going to feel the pressure of midweek football, like we saw what happened to Newcastle last season.
Yes.
You know, after a brilliant season, Newcastle got into the Champions League, and even though they didn't leave, exit the group stage into the round of 16, they struggled, and not to mention they were battered with injuries. But it takes a few key injuries and midweek football, and it just shows you the difference between, the cartel six, as we always say, and the depth they have versus more of the mid-table clubs. Not that Aston Villa is a mid-table club, but historically, I think that Villa will not finish in the top four. And as much as I want them to, I think this is going to be something that really affects them. I'm going to say it's going to be Arsenal. I'm putting City in there. Liverpool's an interesting one. I'm not quite sure, but I think that this team has proven that even with their ups and downs, they manage to get the job done. They're really, really pragmatic.
Just a new
And
manager now as
a
well.
new manager,
No new signings.
maybe. Yeah, exactly. I think I would.
Zubimendi rejected them yesterday as well. He's like, no, I'll stay in Real Sociedad. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
I like that personally. I like the fact he believes in Sociedad's project. What a
I
player he
also
is.
like that as well. I mean, I'm just happy to, see the especially Spanish players really commit to La Liga. I think it's great. But I think I'd be silly not to put Liverpool in there. And then this is where it gets interesting, because then who becomes number four? And I think I said this on the show as well. And I'm gonna go crazy. My predictions are just here for chaos. Let's make that very clear. But I'm thinking Chelsea might swing up there. And listen,
Ooh.
I don't I don't want them to. I'm not a Chelsea fan. This isn't. But I'm thinking, okay, you guys have about 50 squad players. So we know you're deep. All right. Some of them are going to be going for sure. But with the likes of now Pedro Neto, too, what a signing that is. But you have Cole Palmer. You have hopefully Christopher Nkunku, who finally gets his season that he missed out on last season with his injuries. I mean, they have 7 keepers to choose from as well.
Spoiled for
But
choice.
yeah, I know. Like Caicedo's looking to have a better season than, of course, last season. Enzo needs to prove himself. But I'm wondering under Maresca if Chelsea can get it together and make a run, because we saw last season Chelsea weren't good. And in the last 2 months, a lot of it due to Cole Palmer, they climbed the table. They were in 11th at one point and finished 6th?
Yeah.
That's unheard of. So I think that maybe all this Chelsea chaos is everyone's doubting them. Everyone's, assuming they're not going to do well. And they are a mid-table club as of right now. But I think they might be, like, if they can get that pendulum swinging and get their 11 going with the amount of players they have, I think Chelsea might make a run for it and really shock us all. I'm not saying I want to see it, but let's sprinkle some chaos on the top four here.
Let's go for it because it's like I'll first of all I'll go back to Aston Villa as well. So
Yes.
one thing about Aston Villa that I do like compared to Newcastle last season is the experience in Europe from Unai Emery compared to Eddie Howe as well. So he's signed a lot of good players this summer. Uh, Mostly Amadou Onana, fantastic signing in the midfield to replace Douglas Luiz in the centre of midfield, which is going to be great for Aston Villa because, as we know with the Champions League, the so-called group stages, the group table goes on until January, mid-January, as opposed to early December, where you used to have 6 group stage matches as well. So there will be a lot of games in this new format of the Champions League. So Arsenal, Man City, Aston Villa, and Liverpool will all be affected in this. So that will be a very, very big change for these teams as long as the Carabao Cup still carries on as well. They'll still have three competitions to play before the new year, which is going to be big for them as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Aston Villa play. I think they'll make the top four again because I think the fact that Ollie Watkins, and it's very rare in the Premier League to have a very consistent striker year in, year out. And for Ollie Watkins to be that focal point for Aston Villa is a big plus that Aston Villa got to keep him.
If he stays.
If he stays, unless there's a big bid from elsewhere, I think Aston Villa will be very, very happy to keep him as their number nine striker going forward. But they made some good signings, some good young signings Aston Villa have over the summer, which is great to see. But for me, it's more the manager than anything. Unai Emery, he was fantastic last season. He proved so many people in England wrong, especially Arsenal fans who used to make fun of him for the way that he used to speak as well in his broken English. But for now, Aston Villa are looking like the team that everyone wants to watch, everyone wants to appreciate in a way. And for me, I'm looking forward to not really, actually, I'm not really looking forward to it because I hear Salim on the group chat every single week saying, "Oh yeah, we won again, 3-1." I'm like, behave, Salim, behave. And remember, top goalkeeper Emi Martinez. Their defense is looking good with Pau Torres and Ezri Konsa. It's a solid team that they've got already. It's just about how they manage between Champions League, Carabao Cup, and the Premier League. And I think by the end of the season, even if they are knocked out in the early part of the Champions League, through no disrespect to them, I still think they can make top four. So I'm going to keep Aston Villa in the top four. Manchester City, I reckon, will still be in that top four, of course. Arsenal. And my fourth one, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go for it as well. I'll throw a bit of chaos in there. Tottenham Hotspur. I think Tottenham will make the top four.
Hello. I
I think
hope so. I hope you're right and I'm wrong.
I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Man United make it into the top four. But with Ten Hag, we'll get onto that in a bit as well. But Tottenham, they look very, very established throughout the season until probably February, March time when their energy levels just sat down and they weren't used to that style of play under Ange Postecoglou as well. They made some solid signings. Dominic Solanke, who you were raving about, not just on our show, but on your previous show as well in Canada, has signed for Tottenham Hotspur. So he's going to be in a team where they create so many chances, where they have a fluid front three. And for me, that may be one of the best signings of the summer. Solanke coming into that team when you got Richarlison, Werner as rotating strikers, but Son will always be there. You got Brennan Johnson, like Travis said on our group chat, that will looking to build on what he had last season from a right winger. And Dejan Kulusevski is a class act in himself as well. So I think with that team that Spurs have got, and they've got some good young players coming through as well. There's a young Swedish guy coming through called Bergvall, Lucas Bergvall, I think his name is. Remember the name because he'll be someone who'll be looking to challenge James Maddison whenever Maddison is injured in that attacking midfield position. So I'm looking forward to seeing Spurs play. I'm not looking forward to hearing Travis speak all the time on Spurs, which I hear more than often. But I think Ange Postecoglou has it within himself to get them into the top four this season.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I'm worried though again that Tottenham are going to do what Tottenham does, and in that February kind of part of the season, they're going to hit that wall that they hit, like you mentioned, that fatigue.
Yes.
The other issue with Tottenham that I would worry about is their injuries. And we saw that happen to them last season, and it really affected them at one point. I mean, Guti Romero was getting sent off and suspended. Destiny Adogi was injured. Pedro Porro was injured. It was just
Maddison injured for most of the season too.
Yeah, and that's what concerns me. I would love to see Spurs get into the top four under Ange, because the change that they had from 2 seasons ago to last season, 2 seasons ago, they were not watchable. It was horrendous football. It was
Conte
boring.
ball was still horrendous, and the fact that he continues to get great jobs at Napoli. They won
Yeah,
the Scudetto 2 seasons ago, and now it's going to be boring, boring Napoli. That's not nice to see.
it's unfortunate. And then Ange Postecoglou comes in and gives this team, some sort of, new energy, motivation, rejuvenation, and it's brilliant to see, because you're excited to watch these teams that have been so lackluster in so many seasons past and now have something about them. So I hope you're right more so than me, because if Chelsea get to the top four, it's just because they've bought half of the players in, the top five leagues right now. I mean, I think their squad is 50.
Yeah,
Like
it's
their
at
whole
57.
squad
It's
is
at
50.
it's at 57.
It's
So
at 57.
I've worked it out. So basically, Chelsea can play a whole match day squad, then rest a whole match day squad for another game, and then play a whole new match day squad for an entire week. So if they play Saturday, Thursday, Sunday, for example, they can have individual players in different ways, which is crazy. So it's absolutely insane to see that.
Well,
Basically,
surely with the team,
Todd Bowley's like, oh, we can have one squad in the Premier League, one entire squad in the Conference
yeah.
League, and then one in the Premier League as well. It's insane.
I mean, I think by the end of the month, though, we will see some of these players getting loaned out because who was the player they signed last week with an A? I can't remember his name. They signed him and loaned him out immediately. And
Yeah, they did that, and they're still looking to get rid of some of their more established players like Trevor Chalobah, Romelu Lukaku. I still want to get some of their not so much dead weight, but players that have been there for long. I think they want to get rid of Raheem Sterling now because they want to get João Felix in, which I think personally is a bit of a downgrade because Sterling is a very good player.
I think so too. And we remember what happened with Joao Felix at Chelsea not
Yeah,
too long ago, right? It didn't, I mean, it takes time, obviously. I think they saw what happened at Barca, but I think Chelsea and Barca are quite different. Um, I just know Joao Felix is not happy at Atleti, so maybe he's just keen to go anywhere else. But yeah, they have to balance these books out a bit. So my point was though that excuse me, Tottenham being in the top four would be so much more thrilling and exciting because they would have also done it a bit more of the fair way instead of buying all these players and hoping for the best. So I like that shout. Go on, Tottenham.
and now we have to go on to the not so nice bit of the podcast when we're talking about our relegated three. So the three teams that got promoted, we got Ipswich Town, we got Southampton, and the other team that got promoted as well. Who's the other team that got promoted? Leicester
Leicester
City.
City.
Leicester City with a new manager as well, because their manager Maresca, who was shining in the Championship last season, is now the new Chelsea manager. So, yeah, my initial thoughts for relegation candidates, and it may work into my bold prediction, but I think Ipswich Town stay up this season. I think they're going to do
Wow.
very well this season under their
Wow.
manager, Kieran McKenna, former Manchester United coach under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, so he's used to playing attacking football. Annoyingly for Kieran McKenna, he's known for two things in modern football. One, for being the manager that led Ipswich to a defeat to non-league Sutton United in the FA Cup last season, and for being linked with the Chelsea and the England job this summer, despite only getting promoted with Ipswich Town. So he's been a very, very good manager in the Championship since leaving Manchester United as an assistant coach. And for me, I'd like to see what Ipswich have to offer because they used to be a Premier League team in the early 2000s, late 1990s when the Premier League first started. But Sarah, if I'm talking about relegation, I'm thinking about Nottingham Forest, I'm thinking about Southampton, and I have a sneaky feeling Leicester or but Leicester, yeah, no, Nottingham Forest, Southampton, Leicester. They're my three for now. But there is a sneaky feeling for me that I think, you know what, maybe maybe Fulham can get dragged into that
Oh
somehow.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, listen,
Fulham
not
have so many great attacking players, but defense
yeah.
that not so much so far. Let's hear your thoughts.
No, I'm with you with Nottingham Forest. Absolutely. I think they got lucky almost last season. They were teetering on the edge for the last 4 months and managed to stay up. I don't think they're going to be able to do it this season again. I don't think that's in the cards for them. I'm with Southampton as well. Unfortunately, with a lot of these teams that do come up do tend to go right back down. Southampton is a team that we're constantly seeing in and out of the Premier League, and I think it's quite notorious for them to come in and step right back out. I am thinking Ipswich is going to go down. I love
Okay.
the story of, they are the smallest team in the Prem to stay up, and I think that's what we had with Luton. And it still bothers me that Luton is not in the Prem because Luton deserve to be here more than half of these teams.
They had a refreshing style of play. They had a really nice kit as well that they kept for another season as
Yeah.
well. And the fact that they used to they did that thing where they kind of got a lot of non Luton fans on side when they were buying all of these like forgotten gems from previous clubs like Ross
Yeah.
Barkley and Andros Townsend, and it was really cool to see what was happening there. But with the way that Southampton are playing, they play really good football in the Championship. They had a new manager under Russell Martin last season, which was great to see. But maybe with Southampton, it's going to be a factor of they've now signed a new striker. I think it's Sam Gallagher is their new striker, who's good in the Championship as well. But with these new teams that come up, like we saw last season, is it because they can see too many goals, do you think? Or do you think it's a very simple case of they don't score enough goals? Because there's always going to be that gap between great in the Championship, but not great in the Premier League. What do you think is the kind of difference where you think, you know what, they're going to stay up the season because of? What do you think?
I think it is the conceding of the goals, honestly, and that can really, affect a team, especially when it comes to goal differential as well, right? Because sometimes it does come down to that, and that's just brutal. But it takes a lot out of these teams when they're getting scored on so frequently. I think it plays a lot on the mental as well, because it's so difficult to defend against the teams like Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal. They're teams that are just so stacked up front, and you're playing against, Erling Haaland and all these massive stars. But I think it's the conceding that really does it for them. And that's a concern I have for Ipswich, that I am foreseeing like Luton. Luton played brilliant football, but in the end, they could score on you, but you would score on them as well. And in the
That's the
end,
thing.
they would concede more.
When you're looking at it, it's like they play a great aggressive football in the championship when they're the big dogs of the league, but when they come into the Premier League, they rather adapt and they survive, or they have to then continue playing their way of football, which doesn't really work well. Like the prime example last season was Burnley Football Club with Vincent Company. They
Yeah.
tried to be this tiki-taka football, aggressive style of football from the wings. That Company played fantastically well in the championship the season prior. But then now they're back in the championship, and Vincent Company has moved to Bayern Munich and is going to be like, oh yeah, cool. I'm going to carry on my career. But Burnley Football Club are down back where they started when they had Vincent Company, because they didn't adapt to that style of play that would have kept them surviving in the Premier League. And if you're asking a football fan, would they rather survive for another season in the Premier League or get relegated and start again? We all know it's going to be the yeah, it's always going to be the fact that they're going to want to stay in the Premier League. What's the
Yeah.
term? I was looking for the term. Is it the former? It's the former. The former, not the
Former or
latter.
the latter. The
Yeah, it was the
former.
former.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it as well. And with Nottingham Forest as well, we have to speak about it, like you said as well. Nuno Espirito Santo is the new manager that replaced Steve. I forgot the name. Steve Cooper. They
Yes.
replaced Steve Cooper early in the season, last season, and he has a very negative style of football as well. He likes to survive. He likes to keep teams up as well. But for me, Sarah, I'm looking at Nottingham Forest, and I'm not really seeing much in terms of their transfer activity that's inspiring me with
Yeah.
a bit of hope that, you know what, they are going to survive. They are going to do well. Anthony Elanga came through really well. Morgan Gibbs-White played really well last season. They've
Mhm.
got a good young nucleus in the attack, but in midfield, that's kind of where it kind of goes down for me as well. Because they had Freuler, who was good, but he was better for Switzerland at the European Championships than he was for Nottingham Forest in the Premier League as well. But can you see a redeeming factor for Nottingham Forest? That's all.
Not really. And that's why.
Yeah,
And then,
literally.
like, comparing to the likes of, like you mentioned, Fulham. So Fulham's an interesting one, because when I compare the two sides, the star talent on Fulham is miles ahead of Nottingham. Alex Iwobi, Raul Jimenez, Adama Traore. Like
Smith
they
Rowe now as well. Fantastic
well, I
player.
think that's going to potentially be a good game changer for them, because when it comes to defense, he's going to be starting and getting that playing time. And I think that could be really good for him. But I think Fulham is going to be this team that I think will be disappointing overall with the players that they have.
Yeah.
And I see them, like a 16. They're just gonna make it.
They're going to
And
be a fun team to watch, but they won't be reliable enough. That's what I'm thinking as well.
exactly. So yeah, that's what
They'll
I'm
be
worried
losing
about.
4-3 every game. It'll be like a big 2-2 with a last minute penalty that they miss as well. And you're just like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, cool. It's going to be entertaining, but it won't be what we're expecting as well from Fulham just to
exactly.
be
So
steady Eddie in that Premier League table.
yeah, so when it comes down to, the comparison of these two, I think Nottingham Forest are just, they don't have the depth and the star power, and I think they were lucky last season. So yeah, locking in Southampton, Forest, and Ipswich to go down for me.
So it'll be Southampton, Leicester City, and Nottingham Forest for me to go down. Ipswich, they will get surviving by the skin of their teeth on match day 38 by like 1 point or a goal.
I'd love it. I'd love to see it, but let's
It'll,
see.
it'll be fantastic. This one's a fun one. Top goal scorer and top assist in the Premier League. And we've got the usual suspects of Erling Haaland, Ollie Watkins, Alexander Isak. Maybe someone like Bukayo Saka can scrape into there as well. And of course, Mohamed Salah gets mentioned every single time under Jurgen Klopp's tenure. But for me, yeah, I'm gonna go out on a bold one. I think this is Ollie Watkins' season. I think this is Ollie Watkins' season to become England's #1 striker and the best goal scorer in the Premier League as well. He finished with the top 5 of goals and assists across European football last season, which was incredible to see. We all saw his talent in that semi-final against the Netherlands in the European Championship, and as we would know as well, we would be hearing about him every single week because as a top player, as a top striker, and that connection with Unai Emery just makes the world of difference for him as well. And for someone who's seen him play under someone like Steven Gerrard, who's not a top manager, a top coach in coaching elite athletes, and that's why he's coaching in Saudi Arabia with no disrespect to Saudi Arabia, but disrespect to Steven Gerrard. Unai Emery's got the best out of Ollie Watkins. And I think it's time to be getting 25, 26, 27 goals in a Premier League season as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Ollie Watkins has to offer. What do you
Yeah,
think, Sarah?
I think Ollie Watkins is definitely one to keep your eye on. But when you say 25, 26 goals, Erling Haaland's probably going to score 35, 36
You're
goals.
thinking of the Viking. It's
Yeah.
going to be very, very simple, that one.
Do you know what it is with him? Is he's just
Especially if there's no Alvarez as well, mind you. So he may have to play every other game.
it's gonna be like there's a lot more okay, listen, the only way I don't see Erling Haaland winning the top goal scorer is if he gets injured.
Yeah,
And he could. And
that's
I
what I'm thinking
wish
as well.
that.
Like last season, it was out for quite a few weeks of the
Yeah.
season. But
But then he still scored the most goals.
exactly. I
So
just think
that's
Ollie Watkins is now
like
going to go up a bit more now. I'm looking forward to
yeah,
it.
I think with the players, behind him, with the likes of KDB, and you have even John Stones who will get up there and cross into him. You now have Savino on that left wing, or Jeremy Doku, or Jack Grealish. There's so
Thank you
many.
for not mentioning Foden. I'm done with Foden. Frauden.
Oh, we're done. We're done.
We're done with Frauden. It's just like, nah, he can do it for Man City, but he can't do it for England as well. So yeah, Doku's fantastic. Savinho had a great debut in the Community Shield as well.
Yes, he played really well. Yeah,
Lively player.
I'm struggling to go against Erling Haaland. I don't want him to win it, but he's proven himself 2 seasons now. And even like we said last season, he was injured. He's just we've talked about him, and he's not really my favorite kind of footballer. I think he's yeah, there's just something about him that I can't get over. I'm so curious as to how he's a footballer still, but you have to give him credit for knowing where to be at the right time because he
Yeah,
is a tap in merchant, but that still takes skill. His timing is incredible, and you have to give him that. So no matter what, I think he's going to be there, and he has the physicality, he has the height, he can score all kinds of goals. So I think it's still going to be Erling Haaland, which makes you think that maybe KDB is going to be the top assister, but I'm gonna say the top. I'm changing. Is that okay now? Can
that's
we?
okay. Go for it.
We'll segue into the sister. I'm gonna go Cole Palmer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm
I like
giving
that.
Chelsea maybe too much credit, but Cole Palmer, listen, he's just brilliant.
He was Mr. Chelsea last season.
I think he'll be Mr. Chelsea this season, and arguably one of the better players for England as well, even though
Yeah.
he wasn't getting playing time.
He never started a game at the Euros, which made no sense to me. And Phil
Jeez.
Foden did every single game. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
this is why Gareth Southgate is no longer your manager, though,
I'm
because
so glad.
oh no, me too.
I prayed for times like that, basically. Everyone's like, oh no, Gareth was great. I was like, no, he played favourites. And when you play favourites as a manager and it doesn't pay off, it looks very, very childish.
loyal to a
Well,
fault.
literally to the
Yeah.
wrong players as well. Like I was still upset that Trent never got to start at right back, let alone in centre mid, out of position. He just didn't understand what was the benefit of Trent in the team, and it makes no sense to me. But now, Cole Palmer, fantastic player. He was unbelievable last season. One of us may not have had him in our Wonder Kids of the season list, and I'm not going to mention who it was, but I was very well proved wrong on that fault as well, which is great to see. But for me, for my top assistant, I'm going to go for Bruno Fernandes. I think Bruno Fernandes will be the one.
Hello, what a shout.
I think Bruno Fernandes, this is where he gets to have a bit more, I'd say, controlled aggression around him, which is what I like to see at Manchester United. When you got someone like Amad Diallo coming through at the end of last season on the right wing, Alejandro Garnacho scoring against Manchester City off the bench in the Community Shield, and the fact that he never had a pre-season, he came straight in the Community Shield and scored a goal that looked fantastic, which was offside. He assisted Garnacho as well, which was fantastic. The actual goal that counted. I'm looking forward to seeing what Man United have to offer in terms of their attack because for once we have proper options, and I'm not talking about Anthony, and I'm not talking about Jadon Sancho. I'm talking about Amad Diallo, Garnacho, Xerxes being a new signing, Hoyland coming back into the team, which will be fun. And I'm hoping for one or two more coming through the academy, which will be a bit more refreshing to help the likes of Bruno Fernandes, the likes of Casemiro, the experienced side, the experienced players in the side, I should say. And maybe we're going to get more of Mason Mount, but I'd like to see Bruno Fernandes hitting 15, 20 goals and assists this season as well, mostly assists as well, which will be great to see. But I have every faith in him because everyone's going on to Marcus Rashford. Oh, we should have sold him, but Sancho's not been playing well for Man United. We should have got rid of him.
Yeah,
Anthony, how he's still got a contract at Manchester United, I will never know. So we're
incredible.
gonna have to wait and see what happens there. Play him at left back for all I care as well. Reinvent his position, which would be great. And yeah, I'm gonna go for Bruno Fernandes as my top assister of the season.
Nice. I think that's a great show. I mean, he's arguably the most important player at Manchester United, definitely one of them last season. And I think it's more going to be, it's not going to be on, it's this one's not going to be on Bruno Fernandes. This is going to be whether your front three are going to be able to convert those goals because,
Yes.
you know, his passing ability, his precision is amazing. But
Do you know what it reminds me of? So sorry, it reminds me when Mesut Ozil was playing for Arsenal, and then it was
sure.
before Alexis Sanchez signed. So you had like Theo Walcott, Podolski, Olivier Giroud in the team, and you had like someone like Oxlade-Chamberlain. So all of these players who never really became great for Arsenal, but they end up having good careers elsewhere, like Giroud, World Cup winner, of course, as well. Ozil never really had that connection until Alexis Sanchez came in, and
Yeah.
then that's when he became great at Arsenal because he had someone to work with consistently over the season as well. And I don't need to tell you about Alexis Sanchez being great because that was back at Udinese as well, which is a great
Back
little
home
signing as
at
well.
Udinese. Yeah, I'm so happy for him. I think like he's such a great player and he's really trying to squeeze out any last football he has left. And I think they'll really appreciate him back, back at Udinese where he kind of, made his European debut.
Definitely, he made a name for himself then as a fantastic player alongside Antonio Di Natale as well in
Mhm.
that attack, which was fantastic. This one's a fun one, so I'm going to let you take the lead on this one. So this is Dark Horse, Sarah. So
Yes,
are you talking about
sir.
Dark Horse in manager, player, team? What's your thought?
My dark horse is going to be a team. I think you
Okay,
can also do a player, but
okay.
I'm looking at West Ham.
I
Um,
like West Ham. I like West Ham with what they're doing. Fantastic team
the
that they've been building this
business
summer.
The business is very good. Hello, Nicholas Fulkrug. I'm so happy to see him coming to West Ham, to coming to the Prem. Um,
He
you know,
looks like a Premier League striker as well of yesteryear,
does
someone who could be physical, he can take on both centre backs at the same time and can get his head onto anything as well. And we saw that last season for Borussia Dortmund and for Germany at the European Championships.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he was great for Dortmund last season, but again, there were moments when I think he should have been starting and he wasn't, and maybe that's why they didn't end up winning, but that's none of my business. But now I'm seeing him coming to West Ham. He is going to be a starting striker, no doubt. They've also signed Todibo, center back under Julian Lopetegui, who I'm not the biggest fan of for personal reasons after
Ooh,
the 2018 World Cup, leaving Spain in the dust. Yep, no
made
problem.
no, made
And
no
then so
sense for that as well. It is
well,
very
he went
odd,
to Madrid and he made a fool of himself. So karma is interesting in that sense.
literally.
But he has a lot of experience, and West Ham, a really solid team last year, mid-table team, but have done some really good business, like we said. Max Kilman as well, Somerville. They've kind of added some pieces that they needed, and now I think they might be able to go on a really good run. And when I say good run, I'm not talking top four. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but potentially a European position.
Yes.
Whether that's Europa League or Europa Conference League, I think either one is great for West Ham. And I think, yeah, they're one to keep your eye on for sure. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people.
Absolutely, because someone who I was raving about last season, Mohamed Kudus, came into the Premier League on fire last season. He was
Yeah.
fantastic. And now they've built a team which looks like it's going to be built around Jared Bowen and Mohamed Kudus as well. So it's going to give them the freedom to express themselves better. They're going to be a lot less defensive than they were under David Moyes last season. And they're going to be able to have a bit more of attacking, free-flowing play in the Premier League. But like you said as well, I'm not convinced on the new manager, Lopetegui, because we've seen it in Europa League with Sevilla as well. We've seen it in different teams across Spain, but we never saw it at Real Madrid. We never saw it for the Spanish national team. We didn't even see it properly at Wolverhampton Wanderers when he was in the Premier League previously. So it's going to be a very, very difficult time to see West Ham with all these exciting players. And there's still talks of Aaron Wan-Bissaka moving from Manchester United to West Ham United as well. So they could be getting an upgrade on their right back. But it's just about if the manager can knit it all together because it's looking like a very, very exciting project for West Ham United as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they have on offer as well. And like you said, competing for European positions is what they've been doing for the last couple of seasons as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there as well.
Mhm.
Oh, this will be tough for me, but my dark horse isn't going to be. Yeah, I'm going to say my dark horse isn't going to be a club.
Okay.
It's not going to be a player.
Oh, it's a manager.
It's a manager. So it's going to be a
Okay.
manager. And this manager for me, you know what? It's going to be fun to see how he does because we've not mentioned this team yet on the conversation, but it's going to be Oliver Glasner, Crystal
Wow.
Palace.
Wow. You know what, though? I've seen a lot of people saying Crystal Palace this season gonna
Yes.
be a shout. I love that we're giving some attention to them. Go on, tell me why you're looking at Mr. Glasner and Crystal Palace.
Because we saw last season, he had a fantastic end of season, and everyone said it was great that we saw the new manager bounce happen after Roy Hodgson had left Crystal Palace again. Now this is where he's going to be judged because all the eyes are going to be on him. We saw his players like Eberechi Eze and Mark Guehi make the England squad. We saw his players in Michael Elise and Jean-Philippe Mateta make the French Olympic squad. So we saw a lot of recognition in Crystal Palace in international football, more so than we've ever had in our lifetime, I would say as well. I wanted to mention the Brighton manager, but I'll speak about him later on as well. But for Crystal Palace, the fact that you're looking at Oliver Glasner signing Daichi Kamada on a free transfer from Lazio after they won the Europa League with Frankfurt together. There's going to be a lot more expectation on the South London club. There's going to be more expectation on how they replace Michael Elise as well. And
Yeah.
it's going to be very, very fun to see how Crystal Palace move forward because people don't want to see them finish in 15, 16, 17 because the expectation is finally on this team as well. Joachim Andersen is linked with a move away. They've had a few preseason friendlies as well where they've looked pretty good at the same time. But for me, Sarah, I'm looking at it with this new formation that they've got. We're going to see a lot more of their younger players come through, and I hope to see more of them develop because with Crystal Palace, they have a very old squad in like Nathaniel Klein and Will Hughes, and we've seen it with Jordan Ayew, the Ghanaian international as well. So now is the time to see if Oliver Glasner is actually going to be sticking to his guns and making a smaller team, like he did with Eintracht Frankfurt, with no disrespect, but getting them to win the Europa League was a very, very big feat. Remember, they beat Chelsea on penalties as well. They beat Rangers in the final. They had a very, very good competition as well, Eintracht Frankfurt. So to see him do that with Crystal Palace, for me, I'm putting a lot of expectation on him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to offer in the Premier League this season.
What a great shout. I love that as well. Crystal Palace and West Ham, two very likely to be very fun teams to follow this season in the Premier League. And I'm with you. It'll be interesting to see how they figure without Michael Elise,
Yes.
but they're also a team that is very very talented and a lot of youngsters as well. So maybe a new manager bounce there, maybe.
And then my biggest shock, which is our final topic of the conversation, is Brighton don't make top half of the Premier League.
You know what? Brighton was my shock too.
Yeah, with their new manager as well, who's literally like younger than some of their players as well. Fabian Herzler,
Yeah.
31 years of age, is probably younger than a lot of these Premier League players that will be playing against as well. This will be the biggest test of his career and the biggest test of Brighton's. I'm not even going to say their fans, but for their board as well. To hire someone so young in the Premier League, that's an incredible feat to do that. And with all the managers that are available as well, I'm not sure about this appointment. I'd like to be proved wrong, but this is a very, very big call. What's your thoughts on this, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we saw Brighton 2 seasons ago have an absolute, amazing season, and then they kind of got picked apart as Brighton tends to do with not only their manager but Graham Potter going to Chelsea, but then Roberto De Zerbi, fantastic manager as well, but players leaving all over, and it really affected them last season. And it
Definitely.
seems like they're kind of only going back in that direction. Like you mentioned, new manager, a young manager, and it doesn't always work with the young managers, without the experience and a team like Brighton. And there is a lot of pressure on them because they did fall last season quite a bit. And I don't know if that's going to be the right thing to do. Transfer wise, nothing that sticks out to me that looks like they've filled the holes that they've needed to and replaced the players like, the Caicedos. And I still don't understand how I feel like that position is still, they're lacking.
This is where they're bringing in the likes of Baleba, who was good at the end of last season, but it was kind of too little too late for them as well. And they've had so many young players come through where you're expecting them to stand up and shine, but they're good for a couple games and then sometimes they just filter out as well, which is really bad to see from a Brighton perspective as well. Dahoud wasn't really great last season when he came in on the free transfer. You've had all of these younger players coming through when you're thinking this is where they get to shine now. This is the season with a young manager, someone who they can actually work with, who's worked really well. And the only signing I can get really excited about is Minter, the guy that they signed, who's a winger.
Newcastle.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm looking at their transfers right now. And okay, you mentioned Minta, and they have Weifer from Feyenoord, Osman from a Denmark team. I can't pronounce, my apologies. Another Swedish team that Junior Yakulie has come through. You know, a bunch of these players that have played in outside the top five. And then, like you mentioned, the youngsters, they've gotten a couple from the Brighton U21 and an Arsenal U21 player. But we're talking about the Premier League. And if you're relying, I mean, it could be a miraculous story. You know, you're bringing in a bunch of players that a lot of people haven't heard of, a lot of really young players playing from outside or under 21, you know, academies. It just isn't enough for me. You're playing in the
Same.
Prem. Like I'm worried that some of these players aren't going to be able to handle the physicality. They're not going to be able to handle the consistency, especially, you know, against such big teams. If Brighton go through, you know, a spell of a schedule where they're playing, you know, top 10 teams back to back to back, it's going
And
to
for
be.
me, it's the ownership as well, because they'll be the ones that will have to rely upon scoring goals all the time. We saw last season how Evan Ferguson didn't really score much because he was injured. And then the season
Yeah.
before, he was fantastic and being quoted for 50, 60 million pounds. But I think a lot of Premier League teams have kind of caught on to Brighton that when you sign some of these players who are playing really well for Brighton, it doesn't translate to other teams in the Premier League that often as well. And Chelsea have figured that out for a lot of their players as well. I mean, besides probably Cucurella, who's been decent at the end of last season as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Brighton have to offer. Obviously, I want to be optimistic about it, but I'm very, very scared for them as well with all of these young players coming in, with the young manager that they've got coming in as well. And I don't want to be that classic England fan who's like, oh yeah, when you come into the Premier League, it's very, very difficult. But genuinely, it is very, very difficult. And to me, it's got a feeling of a newly promoted side, the way that they're moving into this season as well, which will be very, very difficult to see from a Brighton and Hove Albion perspective, which would be great. But I think that's it, Sarah. We've completed your list. It's been absolutely fantastic to go through this list. And in a way, like we kind of do all the time, it's been great to go through some of these different teams and different players that we don't speak about every single week as well. So it's been a fantastic conversation, as we always do.
Yeah, it's exciting. Like I said, it'll be curious to check back in, you know, January after the holidays and see where we're standing, how wrong or right we are. But yeah, it's a good time of the year, you know, just a few days ahead of the season. Everyone has hope. You know, we're all naive and excited, and you know, in a couple of months' time, we'll be distraught again.
Literally, there'll be a time when Man United win 5-1 against Fulham this Friday, and I'll be selling myself dreams. I'm like, oh my God, top four, here we go, it's going to happen. And then two, three, four injuries down the line. I'm like, yep, this is just business as usual, which isn't great at all. But no, I'm looking forward to it as well. And over the season, we'll be talking much more about La Liga, Serie A, the Champions League, and the new format as well. But with the Premier League coming up as well, it's great to focus on that, which will be great fun. But what's your plan for the weekend ahead? Will you be covering the Premier League on Sporty TV?
Yes, so we have changed up our schedule. So I'm working right now Wednesday to Sunday, but I'm not sure if that's going to change. Everything in football is always changing. But yes, we are covering Premier League, La Liga, Serie A. So it's going to be a busy weekend ahead as we have so many exciting matches. Arsenal and Wolverhampton, Chelsea and City, Barca and Valencia, Real Madrid and Mallorca, I think.
Mallorca, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be great. I'm just so excited to you know, kick off the season. And yeah, we're gonna be covering it, so it's gonna be a busy one.
It's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it as well. And just like we will be doing on Friday Night Counter Attack, hopefully we'll be able to get to more games this season, be able to cover more across the top five leagues as well, which would be great. And carrying on with the great work we've been doing, which is fantastic. But everyone, thank you very much for listening. Take care, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.